In class, I hope. Yeah, good evening class. Yesterday we have started already regarding this Aqua, right? I hope you have gone through the Aqua. We have already started few points, just initial stage of Aqua. After the death of Humayun, directly let us go to the Aqua part. After the death of Humayun at the age of only in and around 13 years, 4 months. By that time, he became the declared as the emperor of India. Okay. Unfortunately, Humayun died out of a small accident. Okay, while he was getting down from his library, he slipped down and he died. After the death, at the age of 13 years, he became the emperor of this entire India. But it was not that easy for him because Humayun also unable to strengthen himself, as we know that Humayun also faced a lot of problems several times. Sometimes he became the king without kingdom. That also we know that. Okay, so I hope those who attended yesterday easily you can identify or you can understand. Let me recap few points. When Humayun was lost his kingdom under the leadership of Sher Shah. Then he visited, traveled here and there without any kingdom in the deserts of Sindhu. Okay, and later on he reached at a place called Amarkot. In the Amarkot, the Hindu king gave him a little bit shelter, and it was that place where Hamida Banu Begum, the wife of Humayun, gave birth to Akbar in 1542, right? That we read yesterday also. Just those who missed the class yesterday, I'm recapping. Yeah. Next, Humayun finally reached the Persia. The king of Persia gave him shelter, and then in 1545, he able to capture Kabul. Later on, the Kandahar and Kamran. Okay, like that one by one he able to capture. Finally, after the death of Sher Shah, yeah, in 1554, taking the advantage of weak rulers, once again, Humayun came to India and tried to capture the throne, that is Delhi, right? And we saw that after his death, Akbar was 14 years in and around 13 years, 4 months in and around. He was declared as emperor, right? But he was greatly given guidance by ableist minister, powerful guidance given by Bairam Khan, who had a great contribution for the strengthening and help establishment of Mughal Empire in India, right? Uh, when Humayun was died, by the time Akbar was not in Delhi. Please remember, these all are the bit point of view, very important. At that time, Akbar was in Kalanur. He was at Kalanur in Punjab, a small place called Kalanur. Please remember that name. And there he was declared as from there itself he was declared as the Badshah of India. Okay. Then he came to Delhi and ascended the throne and that all. But the first challenge what Akbar faced in his life was none other than Himu. Okay, both the battle of second battle of Panipat, as we discussed yesterday, right? Um, Himu and Akbar, under the guidance of Bairan Khan, they met at 1556. Yesterday we already completed that one, so that was the first challenge where Akbar faced that, right? After that, within this period, after the second battle of Panipat, which we completed yesterday, after the second battle of Panipat, if you'll see, within few year, he able to complete. During the first half of the year, first 4 to 5 years, he strengthened his army, Akbar. Okay, he Akbar and Bairam Khan conquered Ajmer, Gwalior, Oudh, Junapur, like that, in and around areas he able to capture. Yesterday class we were talking about the conquest of Malwa and Gondwana. Akbar's career conquest began with the conquest of Malwa. Malwa he captured in 1561. Please note down these are the ruler of Malwa. Yesterday also we discussed that Baj Bahadur, who defeated. Then Gondwana was captured next 1564. And by the time the ruler was Rani Durgavati, who was in fact guidance of his minor son. But unfortunately, there was a conspiracy, and Rani Durgavati was killed by her own people. Then Gondwana also captured by Akbar. That was happened in 1564. Most important challenge faced by Akbar's reign period was none other than his relation with Rajputs. Most important, contribution. I hope you are understanding. A little bit important and most, uh, yeah, bit point of view also very important. Let us go for that. Akbar's relation with Rajput, one of the most important chapter. Akbar valued friendship with the Rajput because he know that they were the very brave and honest. He took all possible measure to gain the confidence of Rajput. Of course, he wanted to gain the control over the Rajput. Okay, but on the other hand, he had a little bit sympathy toward the Rajput because of their bravery and honest. He married to Jodha Bai, the Amber princess. All the state of Rajasthan, except Mewar, entered into friendship with Akbar, who gained them honor and a high position in the Mughal government. So that is one policy he adopted toward the Rajput. The Rana of Mewar looked Akbar's effort, friendship with suspicious. He never believed Akbar. Anyhow, later on, they went on war a little bit. After the war, Chittor, Akbar able to capture the fort of Chittor. Then Rana Pratap Singh, who was inspired, and he defeats in continuously he defeated. Finally, Rana Amar Singh, the son and successor of Rana Pratap, became friendly to Mughals, and the Rajput policy of Akbar proved benefit for Mughals. So we can say a little bit went towards a little bit detail if you'll go related to the Rajput dynasty. Here we can say a little bit. Yeah, in 70, little bit in detail if you'll go, his relation with the Rajput was, once you note down, after the Rana Pratap, Rana Uday Singh, son of Rana Sangh, who was the strongest ruler of Rajasthan, made the king of Mewar. Once you note down, Rana Sangh, at the time of Rana Uday Singh, the son of Rana Sangh, Akbar wanted to capture that Rajasthan, taking the advantage of weaker ruler. Akbar invaded Chittor, captured the Mewar. In 1567, Rana left the capital, leaving the fort of Chittor under the leadership of two young Rajput heroes. Please note down this. This is very important. And that two young Rajput heroes or the princes were none other than Jaimal and Patta, Patta. So these are the two young Rajput leaders. They were under the control of Chittor, but Akbar's army able to defeat them and capture the Chittor. But Akbar had a great respect for this Jaimal and Patta. After capturing this Chittor, to give respect to them, Akbar had made some their statues and kept in front of that Chittor fort. That was the greatest contribution of Akbar. After the Chittor, he able to capture Ranthambore, Kalinjar, Bikaner, Jaisalmer. These all Rajasthan areas, one by one, came under the control of Akbar. So that was the greatest contribution. Uh, Rajputs, okay, completely Rajput, which was one of the strongest ruler at that time. Okay, enter India. I hope you are understanding. After that, Rajput, he migrated towards Gujarat. Akbar migrated towards Gujarat. The rich and fertile land of Gujarat was finally captured in 1578. Okay. After that, he focused on the Bengal. Bengal was annexed in 1574-76. Between that period, Bengal also. captured, because these all are the fertile lands because of this Indo-Gangetic plain. Okay, so these are entire area, northern, eastern, and western up to Gujarat, eastern up to Bengal. Okay, entire area he bought under his control. Next, northwestern part. Let us go to the northwestern part. Akbar even extended his empire toward the northwestern part. He sent the campaign to the region of Kabul. He captured Kabul in 1585. Only this point you try to remember. Kabul in 1855, Kashmir in 1886, Kandahar 1586, Kandahar 1586, and Lower Sindh, south part of Sindh province, 1590. These are all areas of the northwest part came under the control of Akbar. Even he able to capture the Baluchistan, which led an increased trade between India and the Central Asia. That was a strategical and one of the important geographical place for the trade and commerce, and that all places now under the control of Akbar. Now we can say up to western to eastern, even northwestern part also captured by Akbar. I hope you understood that. After these all strengthening his condition in the northern part, now Akbar concentrated toward the Deccan part, south part of India. Okay, if you'll see the south part of India, after consolidating his empire in the northern India, Akbar turned toward Deccan, Khandes, which was already captured in 1576. The five states of the Bahmani, what we read, they were also out of that. Only three states, Ahmednagar, Bijapur, Golconda, were very important, and Akbar sent an mission to those states and pursued them to accept his supremacy. So during the south part, we read in one class Bahmani kingdom and the Vijayanagara kingdom. We read that Bahmani kingdom was divided into five kingdoms. Out of that five, he able to capture Ahmednagar, Bijapur, and Golconda. Birar and Bedar only unable to bring under his control. Even he made the south part little bit more. There was a ruler, Chand Bibi, who was murdered in 1600, one of her novel, and this made Akbar's task easy to capture remarkable Ahmednagar, the kingdom of Ahmednagar, which was ruled by the Chand Bibi. Try to remember that. So in this way, Akbar expanded his empire completely North India, as well as we can say this is how he, oh no, this is how he, what happened? I am unable to show this. Yeah, this is the entire India. Northwestern part you can see, these all are the northwestern part. Okay, then here it is up to Bengal and Odisha, and then Vijayanagara. This is what Akbar able to expand. We know that he able to get only a small part of this Delhi and Kandahar from Humayun, but because of his able leadership and yeah, work, he able to expand his empire entire India. This is what the expansion of Akbar's empire. So this is the wars and all this. Now if you see why Akbar's place is more important in the history of India. He was a able administrator, great army. His administration, if you see, present India, how we are following the local self government, exactly the same system he adopted by that time. His religious policy, his art, architecture, and most important is none other than education and literature. Let us go through a little bit because these all are very important bit point of view. Let us see what is the administration. If you see the administration, most important contribution of Akbar's administration was none other than Mansabdari system. What is this Mansabdari system? It was an important feature of Mughal army. Every officer or the noble was given a Mansab, or the Mansab is a rank. He was called a Mansabdar. Mansab was value in the term of numbers of horsemen. How many horse he was under his control. he expected to maintain the mansab were valued from 10 to 5,000. Different mansabdars were given different number of horses to control. So based upon that, it was called as a mansabdari system, which is a little bit new for India by that time. He paid a handsome salary. That all none of our business. Next, and along with that mansabdari system, another thing he introduced, that is jagirdar. A large area was given under the control of one Jagir. Okay, he was taking care of everything, tit and bit of the administration. So this is one of the greatest contribution. And then if you'll see the army, he had a great army. He maintained navy. He had also Akbar paid attention for the formation of a navy after his conquest of Gujarat. And the navy, however, remained weak and was not that much of conquest. But the first emperor, Mughal emperor, who concentrated about the navy, that credit also goes to Akbar. Another thing, if you'll see, he divided entire administration under the leadership of Wazir and Mir Bakshi. Sometimes we are getting the objective in this name. What is the Wazir system in Akbar's period? Wazir, 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 and Mir Bakshi. Please note down, the Wazir was the head of the revenue department. Who was Wazir, or who was the head of the revenue department of Akbar? So that is none other than Wazir. He was also called as a Diwan, Diwanigiri, Diwan. And Mir Bakshi was the paymaster of the army and looked after the military organization. Mir Bakshi and Wazir. I hope it is easy. Along with that, he also controlled so many other groups. Chief Judge, the Sardar, he kept a record of charitable grants and the donation. Similarly, Diwani Khas, Diwani Arm, he constructed. Now, if you'll see the provincial administration, please note it down. Provincial administration. If you'll see the provincial administration, the whole empire under Akbar was divided into 15 suba. Suba means province. We know that province, it is not new at all. Even British also divided India into 11 provinces. And now that province we converted into states. Okay, that is only province. Entire Mughal empire under Akbar was divided into province or suba, out of which 12 were North India, and the suba was divided into, okay, that suba or the province was divided into number of sarkars, sarkar into pragana. So I hope you can understand that. Let us once again recap. Entire Mughal empire was divided into province, province divided into sarkar. Please note down by down. And sarkar divided into praganas. A pragana consists of many villages, number of 2, 3, 4, 10 villages combinedly called as the pragana. And the provincial administration was run on the central pattern. The subedar was the governor of the province. Suba, as we know that province was the Suba, the head of the province or the Suba was subedar. As in India, if you'll compare, I hope you can get one idea of Indian present local self-government system. Exactly the same thing he did by that time, right? And Subedar was the head of the Pragana or the Suba. Next, he also kept the Diwan, one of the province Diwan, who kept the record of the revenue of the land. Similarly, he appointed another officer called Bakshi, attend the needs of army. We read about the Mir Bakshi. So that Mir Bakshi was appointed even in the Subedar or in the Praganas, right? Along with that, during Akbar's period, a new administration system we were able to see that was called as a Kotwal. Kotwal, we know that police station in Hindi also called as a Kotwal. A police station still called Kotwali. Nowadays, we are using that word. That was also introduced during Akbar's period, right? So this much of tit and bit. And most important thing is that the Pragana, I hope you remember that, the Sarkar and the Pragana, Sarkar, and that is none other than the village. These all organization, they kept eye on each other. No one can go beyond the power. In India now, also we are having legislative, executive, judiciary. If you'll see, executive, legislative, and judiciary, they able to check one another, which is popularly called as check and balance. I hope you know that exactly the same system he adopted by that time. So that was a great contribution regarding the administration to Indian administration by Akbar. Along with that, he had a good revenue system, and he appointed Raja Todarmal. Please note down. Raja Todarmal, a brilliant revenue officer who had first served under the Sher Shah. Akbar had a great respect to the other people also. We can see that. Though he was worked under the Sher Shah, but Akbar appointed him as a revenue officer, right? And trade and commerce, if you'll see, Gujarat, Bengal, there was two main centers of the foreign trade. It is in the western part, and that is in the eastern part. With the expansion of the empire, overseas trade also increased during the Mughal period under the rule of Akbar. India carried trade with the Central Asia, Persia, Russia by that time. Okay, India traders exported the textile, indigo, stapler, next spices, and different type of textiles, and so many. We able to get a large or the vast trade relation with Central Asia, even the other part of world. That was the trade administration. Now, most important, another contribution of Akbar was none other than education and literacy. If you see the literature and education, Akbar had a great contribution for the patronage of education and literature. He patronized art, literature, and enjoyed the literacy and discourse. He already made a Diwani khas, like that. Some important places were established. Okay, that is. Let us see. He had frequently discussion with the religious thinkers. Yeah, most important, though he was a Islamic, some let us see, he was not a bigot. Bigot, I hope you know that what is a bigot. And people or the historians giving more important to Akbar, because first of all, he realized that state is being should be a secular instead of bent toward one religion. Number one. Number two, Akbar did not allow the ulemas into the administration. He did not listen the ulema. There is no place for ulema in his administration. Ulema, I hope you know that the Muslim in the Bhakti movement we read that the Muslim preachers or the leaders were called as a ulema. Akbar did not give respect to them. Third, respect in the sense in the administration, right? Another, thirdly, we can say Akbar made an administration thoroughly impartial. There was no discrimination in the name of religion or anything. That was one of the most. That's why I told you he was not a bigot. He gave importance to all the people, and most important, he realized that Rajput. He concentrated on the Rajput. He took the help of Rajput. As a result, he able to maintain a strong and able administration in India. So, along with these other, his literacy, if you'll see, religion and literacy, he had so many prominent literature people, such as his court. In his court, we able to see Sheikh Mubarak and his two great scholars, sons, Abul Fazl and Faizi. Please note down. Sheikh Mubarak was a member at the time of Mughal period. Along with that, Abul Fazl and Faizi, they were the two great scholars. They lived in his court. Abul Fazl wrote the Akbarnama, most important account for Akbar's life, Akbarnama. He was advisor and friend. Apart from Akbarnama, he also written one book called Ain-e-Akbari, Abul Fazl. Very, very important objective. Please note down. Abul Fazl, right? Along with that, Faizi was a Persian poet and a scholar who translated the Ramayana and Mahabharata from Sanskrit into Persian. Please note down. Very, very important. Faizi. Faizzi, Faizi, another great scholar who lived during Akbar's court. Okay, he was the Persian who converted or translated Ramayana and Mahabharata. Please note down. Similarly, Akbar gave importance to some Hindi poetry and received a great encouragement from some of the Hindi poets also. Kesavadas, Rahim, Surdas. Please note down. Kesavadas, Rahim, Surdas, most important, Tulsidas. I hope you come across with the name Tulsidas, who lived during this period where the poets renowned. Ramcharita Manas, I hope you have written, listened that, and Hanuman Chalisa. Okay, this Ramcharita Manas written in Hindi by Tulsidas and popularly called as the Ramayan, Tulsi Ramayan, one of the most popular book of North India by that time. Similarly, Rahim's Doha, in schools also we're reading Rohim's Doha. That is also one of the greatest contribution during this period. He was, yeah, Rahim, trusted literate of Akbar, was a scholar of Persian also. He was the son of Bairam Khan. Bairam Khan, we know the relation. So Rahim was the son of Bairam Khan. Along with that, uh, Akbar had a great contributor of the literature. The Chinese had invented paper by that time, started the Western Asia, and he also tried to collect such type of thing. Anyhow, that detail will not go. Along with that, if you see the architecture, one more important, let me say regarding this literature, as we have the Navaratnas. Okay, Akbar had also that Navaratnams are the nine jewels. Please remember and note down. Akbar also in his court used to keep a galaxy of some important, most talented people. They were called as the nine gems or the Navaratnas. Some of them well known. Just now we took the name Abul Fazl, Faizi, Rahim, Khan E Khan, Todarmal. I hope you know that. Tansen, I hope you know that. Birbal. Okay, these all are some of the important. Raja Man Singh also. These all are the important literature or the scholars who were popularly called as Navaratnas during Akbar's court. Okay, greatest contribution to Indian literature. Now we will focus on the Akbar's architecture. Akbar spent a huge sum on the building of new capital, Fatehpur Sikri near Agra. Please note down. Delhi was that, but he constructed the Fatehpur Sikri, nearby Fatehpur Sikri, Agra Fort, Amar Singh Gate, and similarly, Buland Darwaza. Next, the architecture of blending various of Indo-Persian, Central Asian style, and that was popularly called as Indo-Sarsanic. And this Indo-Sarsanic, even we read during the Delhi Sultanate. Okay, the Sultanate or the Islamic architecture just mixer with or joined with Indian architecture, and that fusion gave a new name that was called as Indo-Sarsanic architecture. Please note down that Indo-Sarsanic architecture, right? Uh, he had a great contribution. Divaniyam, I told you, Divani Khas, Panchmahal, okay, Jodhabai's palace, Humayun's tomb. These all are the greatest contribution of Akbar in and around Delhi. Most important stylist tombs. One of the greatest was none other than Mughal style of tombs, Mughal influence that temple's architecture. We able to see that on the Govind Dev temple at Brindavan is made with the red sandstone, and so the distinct mixture of Indo-Sarsanic or the Indo-Mughal architecture. Please note down these all are very, very important, right? Next, another most important contribution of Akbar, if you'll see the religious policy. Religious, as I told you, Akbar, of course, he was a Muslim, Islam, but he had interest on other religion. He was not a bigot. He gave respect to all the religion. He, at the age of 40, nearby 40, 41, 42, by that time, in and around 40, he declared one his own religion. He learned all the main concept of the religion, and he declared his own concept that is called as Din-i-Ilahi. Din-i-Ilahi, most important, he declared that. Okay, but it was not a religion. Most of the people, they are thinking that Din-i-Ilahi is a religion, but no, it is not a religion, but it is the mixture of all the religious concepts. Din-i-Ilahi means divine faith. Please note down. Dini-Ilahi, which is also called as a divine faith. In 1581, when Akbar, he declared this one. Okay, what was the main objective of this Din-i-Ilahi? It was mainly made about the oneness of the God. Instead of different religion, he wanted to bring every religious people in one platform. Of course, he did not force the people. He had a good concept, this Dini-Ilahi, but he did not force. As a result, after the death of Akbar, we can say Dini-Ilahi was not accepted by other people, and anyhow, it was not that important after the death of Akbar. But this Din-Ilahi is one of the greatest landmark toward the religious tolerance of Akbar. We can say that he was not a religious by God. He was a secular in thought, and he gave importance to all the Hindu, Muslim, Buddhism, Jainism, whatever the religion was existed. He gave importance to them. That we can say, right? After that, Dinila, we have seen, he had a great contribution for Hindu also. By that time, the Sati movement, for the first time, Akbar stopped the Sati custom, okay, in the Hinduism, but the traditions are not that easily we can eradicate. Akbar has taken the step, but it was unable to completely eradicate. But the credit goes to him. At the age of, he was also widow remarriage. He encouraged the widow remarriage, okay, and so many stories are there. Anyhow, we are not going to that detail. This is what one of the greatest contribution of Akbar to the Indian administration. Administration we have seen, we can consider that administration as a Indian local self-government system completely, army, literature, architecture, religion, whatnot. These are all things and his good relation with the Rajputs, Hindu policy. Yeah, this we cannot forget. Akbar was a person who removed the tax given by the Hindus at the time of Mughal. I hope you know what tax they used to give all the Hindus during the Muslim rule. Hindus used to pay one tax, and that tax was called as a jizya tax. And this Akbar abolished the jizya tax for the first time among the Muslim rulers. Akbar was the person who removed the jizya tax. So these many contribution we can say, because of all these contribution, Akbar period is considered as one of the golden period in Indian history, as well as Muslim rule in India. That much greatest contribution. He had a good relation with the Rajputs. He had good relation with the personal convictions and good religious liberalism. Due to all this, we can remember. These are the important points you can remember. And so many points still there. His relation with the Rajput, Rana Pratap, and his wars. Okay, I hope you understood this one. Very slow. I never taught this much of slow anytime, but as it is important part, very slowly I hope you people have understood this. This is the great achievement we can say about Akbar, right? Ma'am, it is two more minutes.
Yes, sir.
2 minutes.
Shall we join again, sir?
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Yeah. Please join again, children.